Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cash Up, a weekly show where we converse with amazing folks in DFIR. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Kathryn Hedley. Kathryn's been working in digital forensics for over a decade and is currently a director and digital forensics specialist at Chirons Limited, an instructor for SANS, and a co-author of SANS 4308, Digital Forensics Essentials. Prior to her current roles, she was a forensic investigator at BAE Systems and a software developer at Logica CMG. Kathryn's earned both a Master of Science in Computer Forensics from the University of Westminster, where she graduated with distinction, and a Bachelor of Science in Information Systems from the University of Abertay-Dundee. Kathryn holds a multitude of certifications, including the GIAC Certified Forensic Analyst, GCFA, the GIAC Certified Incident Handler, GCIH, the GIAC Certified Forensics Examiner, GCFE, the GIAC Reverse Engineering Malware, GREM, the GIAC Advanced Smartphone Forensics, GASF, the GIAC Network Forensic Analyst, GCFNA, and the Certified Forensic Security Responder, CFSR, and more. Kathryn shares her research outside of the classroom on her digital forensics blog. She also has given presentations at a variety of SANS summits and events, including on the importance of validation, system profiler, automating the routine stuff, and a webcast on securing your future in DFIR. As one of the lead motivators of the D4Fit movement, Kathryn has led several charity initiatives related to fitness challenges for the forensics community, including the D4Fit Costume Challenge during the Magnet Virtual Summit and Codebreakers for Bricks, raising fitness awareness and funds for Bletchley Park. Check out Kathryn's compassion, and comparisons of fitness-related gear on d4fit.com. Kathryn spent a 16-year career as an accomplished figure skater representing Great Britain for 3 years and in 6 internationals. She was the Scottish Senior Ladies Champion for 2 years. Kathryn will be teaching SANS 4308 Digital Forensics Essential classes in both February and March. Both classes are online, so anyone can register. Kathryn is a total inspiration and motivator, be it from her incredibly inspiring D4Fit videos, complete with costumes that encourage others to get out there and move, to the way she inspires folks to learn in forensics. And with that, Kathryn Hedley. Hi, Kathryn. How's it going?
Hello. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Well, it's true. It's who you are. It's all the things you've been doing. You just do really cool stuff. It's always weird when you just hear your whole career spilled out in a matter of minutes. But you've been doing so many inspiring things and motivating things and accomplished so much certification, so much education, so much training, so much sharing. How did you get here?
I think, well, how did I get into forensics? The answer is kind of almost by accident, which is always a good way to start things. I did my bachelor's degree many years ago now. I'm far too old. And one of the optional modules in that bachelor's degree was digital forensics. And I took one look at that syllabus and said, yeah, that sounds really interesting. Let's do that module. So I did the module and it was the best thing ever. It was just really exciting and really interesting. And I graduated and went onto a graduate program with Logica CMG. And I worked for them for 2 years doing development on the Galileo positioning system, the European system, which was amazing. It was incredible. And I loved that job, absolutely loved that job, loved working for Logica. But I was just looking at other jobs that were around, just out of interest, and I saw a job opening for a digital forensic person, and I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's my career. I want to do that. So I applied with 0 experience.
Oh, wow. And just that one module
at uni. And I went to the interview basically thinking I have no chance of getting this job, but I'm really, really happy where I am. So it really doesn't matter.
Right.
And I'm experience, right? It's interview experience. So I went for that interview and I walked in and I said, yeah, I know I have no experience. I know I don't have any qualifications, but here's what I do know. Here's what I learned in this module. And I'm a fast learner. So if you're willing to teach me, then I'm willing to listen. And to to kind of put it to them as an offer, I said, well, what if I did a master's degree part-time for the first 2 years in the job, so I can get up to speed as quickly as possible. I can also learn on the job. And to my complete surprise, they went, yeah, okay then. So I took the job, which was a great move, and that got me into digital forensics, and I've been doing it ever since. So that was 12-ish years ago now.
I love that. And, when you put that time together, you're talking about the early 2000s for that class you took. And it's really interesting. It must have been one of the first digital forensics modules out there because I don't remember there being things scholastically available as a module in an information systems or a cyber security or even a computer engineering degree at that time. Like, it must have been one of the first schools. So I think that's really cool that you got that exposure so early and that you knew the minute you had that taste, like you went into development, but then you were working on really cool stuff. But then you were like, you know what, this is my love. I'm going to go after it. And the zeal you showed in that interviewing process where you're like, look, I know that I have only this little bit of knowledge, but I'm willing to learn. And I'm willing to put aside this time and work on a master's at the same time to get caught up while doing a job. No wonder they brought you on, because you were showing so much initiative and motivation and passion to do the work. And that's just so key. I love that.
Yeah, so, it was a bit of a kind of stab in the dark, really. I mean, I fully expected them to say no, because they were actually looking as well for a senior person. They wanted some experience. And I just went in completely blind, really, and just said, look, I know I'm not what you're looking for, but will you consider this as an option? And yeah, I started my bachelor's degree in 2002. And yeah, at that time, I'd never heard of digital forensics.
Right.
Just seeing that module in my final year was the first time I'd heard of that as a thing. So yeah, it's grown so much since then.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Was in forensics. So that's the difference between like 2002 and 2008 when I did my master's degree. We went from not really hearing about it to having full degrees dedicated to it, which is awesome.
It is. It's fantastic. It's just today, I was contacted this morning by a student who's in his first year at University of New Haven. And what's really cool is, I actually should have him on the show, but I met him when he was 14 and at a career fair at Circle City Con and spoke to him about the field. Nicholas Dubois, he's awesome. He's done presentations. He's done research like when he was in high school. And I'm just so excited that he was able to like start right after high school into a program and that those programs exist now. But when you and I got into this field, nope.
Yeah.
So yeah. I just love it. I think it's great. And that's a dramatic change. So bringing us now to today, what are the kinds of things that you're working on now or have been working on recently?
So right now, absolutely nothing, because I've only just finished recording the FOR 308 on-demand videos. And because of COVID and lockdown and everything, all of our deadlines for 308 became quite short. And it's really consumed everything since March to just get the content written, get the course out. The beta happened in July and we went live last month. So that's all been
Congratulations, though. That is so much work to develop a course on a shortened timeline, get through the betas, get through the rewrites, you just recorded the on-demand version. So all of that content is now out there. Just an incredible amount of work. And I just really appreciate how much you and the team you worked with put into building a course that really is for people who have not had digital forensics experience, right? Like sometimes people go to 500 and it's like, whoa, I'm starting in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why this course exists, really. So I kind of became involved with 308 back in 2017. I'd been doing SANS courses. I was trying to do roughly one a year. And my first SANS course was 2013. So 2017, I was on roughly my fourth SANS course. And I actually went to Rob Lee at the event, which was in London. And I said, do you mind if I sit down with you at lunchtime and just talk about a beginner course? Because you're absolutely right. We go in at FOR 500, and that really starts at, you already know forensics, but here's some Windows specific. And there was no course that covered what's forensics. Like, why are we doing this? Why do we need to worry about what the artifacts are? What does forensics actually mean? And I went to Rob with actually a presentation on my laptop and said, right,
I love this.
Here's what I would like to include in this type of course. I think it needs to exist because of these reasons. I was training up juniors at the time in my team. I had clients coming to me with the same questions over and over again because they didn't understand what data and metadata were. They didn't understand how data is stored. The fact that when you delete data, it's not really gone. It's recoverable for a certain length of time. And all of these things are kind of foundational concepts that it's useful for anybody to know, whether you're doing forensics or not.
I think that's really interesting, right? Because the class isn't just for people who are maybe in other parts of security and want to move to digital forensics, which might be the onset thought. But what you just brought up, where you're like, this is information that other people who interact through security or through investigations or in law enforcement or even attorneys, that these are courses that help them understand then the interactions that they have with their digital forensics examiners and what they should send and what they shouldn't send. Like, that really is important to have that understanding. I love that approach.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, we've all kind of written it for different reasons and for different but yeah, we've kind of designed it for everyone. As you say, it's not you want to do forensics. It's you may never want to do forensics or have any real interest in going down that route, but it's more about how do you ask the right questions of a digital forensic examiner? How do you just have some level of understanding of your device that you're using so that you can use it better, so that you understand you can recover a file if you delete it accidentally, or your camera reformats your SD card. How do you get your photos back? It's kind of a mixture of all of those things.
Right.
And yeah, the way I got involved was, I had this chat with Rob Lee, and he said, "Yep, we've been trying to do this course. We want this course to exist, but we don't have a team to write it at this point in time." And I went, yes, please.
I love that. I love that. I love how motivated you were to get in there and suggest this is what should be done.
Yeah, so that's how I became involved in it at that point. And I say, yeah, Jason and Phil, who are my co-authors, have different stories but fairly similar stories. It's all about, we all three of us want this course to just exist for anybody who wants to understand those fundamentals of forensics and incident response.
I love that, because it's also appropriate for people who are in management or in the security office, the CISO's office, to really understand what the forensics team does and to be more educated on that. They don't necessarily need to be in the weeds performing the exam, but they need to be cognizant and aware of what the incident response team does, what the forensics examiner does. So I really appreciate the fact that you've put all this work in to build this course, and also great for people who want to get their start and get in the door for forensics. That's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so primarily aimed at, yeah, exactly that. Managers, people in HR, people working
yes.
in department, lawyers potentially who just want to understand the other side of things. That they're kind of our primary audience. They're people who don't really use computers that much in their day jobs, but they maybe need to interact with forensic examiners. And yeah, anybody who wants to get into the field, obviously it will teach some of those basics. And if people are already in the field, but they haven't done those fundamentals, because people, as you say, have sometimes skipped ahead and gone straight into here's Windows and here's the registry and here's all these artifacts, or here's an Android device, this is how you acquire the data and analyze the data, and maybe missed out some of the earlier steps on what's binary, what's hexadecimal, what's data and metadata. So we can kind of come full circle and kind of fill in a few of those gaps as well.
I love that. I love that. And understanding fundamentals is so critical to getting things. So that's great. So outside of 4308,
Yeah.
A lot of people may know you from D4Fit, the D4Fit movement. What kinds of things are going on right now with that?
So many things, so many things. So there's probably two main things to mention at the moment. One is I'm going to do a shameless plug for a marathon that I'm doing on Christmas Eve with Sarah Edwards. We are basically trying to raise money to save a site called Bletchley Park, which is where code breakers, military veterans, helped to break the German Enigma code during the Second World War. So that is a site that's under threat because of COVID lockdowns. They rely on visitors to get money to stay open, and they haven't had many visitors since March because of COVID restrictions. So yeah, it's basically to try and help them stay open. And they have something called the Code Breakers Wall, which is a literal wall. It's a place, it's a line of bricks, and you can basically pay to get somebody's name engraved on one of the bricks on this wall. And I saw they were struggling and looked at this wall and thought, well, shouldn't every veteran have a brick? It feels like every hero deserves to be recognized. So I kind of had this, whether it's a bright idea or not, I've no idea. It was certainly an idea to try and get every veteran a brick. I then did some maths and worked out that was a terrible idea because there are over 10,000 veterans who don't get a brick. And the wall currently has 2,000 bricks available that don't have a name on them. 2,000 is a smaller number than 10,000. So it's not actually possible to give every veteran a brick, which is a shame. I would still love to do that. But if we can just fill in a few more of those and just get a few more heroes recognized, then I think that would be awesome. So I've agreed to do a marathon distance within 24 hours on Christmas Eve. And Sarah Edwards will be joining me in DC. I'll be in London. And I've basically set up a page where people can donate £15 to put a song on the playlist that we'll listen to while we do it, or £50 you can nominate a landmark for us to visit. So one for me in London, one for Sarah in DC, and we'll take a selfie and post it on Twitter on the day, on Christmas Eve.
I love this because I just want to remind everybody the money goes to a good cause. You can also do bricks for code breakers and actually buy a brick in a veteran's name. I've done that to help support as part of the D4Fit movement. But also, what's really, really cool here is that you can put any song you want on their playlist. That means that for $15, 100 of us could have them play Baby Shark 100 times in a row. So this is your opportunity to affect the sanity of Kathryn and Sarah. No, I'm joking. But it is a good opportunity, so I encourage people to do that. What is the website for them if they want to, or do they just contact you? How do people do this?
So it's on GoFundMe, and the campaign is Marathon for Code Breakers. So it's the number 4. If you're on Twitter, I'm using the same hashtag, Marathon for Code Breakers. You can find it's pinned to my profile on Twitter, so you can have a look at me on Twitter, and you should come across it as the first post.
I also just dropped it in the chat for anyone who wants it. I just Googled it and put it up there while you're doing. And just so you know, Brian Moran apparently is getting you some Spice Girls songs.
I would not be surprised if he put Spice Girls on the list. I may have mentioned I wasn't a massive Spice Girls fan. So yeah, same with
me. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. No, I'm joking. So it would also be nice if you put maybe some music that would actually pump them up and motivate them. So please do that. I love the idea that you're doing yours in London and that Sarah's doing hers in DC, and that you can pimp it up by giving them specific landmarks to put on their route. That's really a lot of fun. I did want to, if we're talking about D4Fit, for those people who don't know, Stacy, a forensics woman on Twitter, back in 2017, she decided she wanted to help motivate people. And so she started this hashtag D4Fit. And that is so much fun. By the way, Kevin Pagano is going to rickroll you. He said Rick Astley on repeat then. So
I do have the veto power for any repeat songs to skip over them if we get too annoyed by them. But we will do our best to listen to everything that goes through. But when so Phil Moore threatened to put Baby Shark on 100 times, so that's when the veto rule came into play, because 2 hours of Baby Shark was going to drive both of us insane. So yeah.
But you'll listen to it once.
We will listen to everything once. That's the promise. But anything on repeat, we reserve the right to skip through.
I have a feeling I'm about to make some donations for some songs, but I will make fun ones that will pump you up and motivate you, and put some like dual core hack all the things in there and some other good fun stuff. So I will not give you Spice Girls and Rick Astley and Baby Shark. What I've learned is that some of our friends in forensics are cruel. That's what I've learned. But I motivated them to be cruel too, so that's okay. But it's for a good cause. I love that you're doing it. And I encourage people to follow the hashtag. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the second thing, words are hard. The second DFIR thing is Stacey's holiday hustle that I wanted to bring up. So Stacey came up with the hashtag. I don't know the history of that. I would love to hear the full history of where that came from at some point. So hopefully, Stacey, if you're watching, we can sit down with a drink and you can tell me the full story. Or if she wants to put it on Twitter or something, that would be awesome. But yeah, Stacey's announced the holiday hustle, which is running throughout December. So every day, it's not much to do. It's just, I think it's 4 minutes of exercise per day. So anybody can do 4 minutes of exercise.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, if you get to do them all, post it on Twitter. Everyone's motivating everybody else, and it's really cool. It's things like burpees and squats and things like that. So it's something everyone can do. It's really short. It doesn't take up much time, and it's all there. We're all there just to motivate and support each other.
I love this. That is great. What a great hashtag. What a great thing. Anyone can do it. That's the whole idea. Get up from behind your desk, even if from 4 minutes. Stop looking at hex and move your body. And I just love the motivation that you've done around that. Yeah, love it. Okay, so you're obviously developing a great resource for people starting in forensics with your 4308, and you're developing this great resource around D4Fit. I guess it's also fair to say, I know Kevin dropped the link earlier, that Brian Moran created D4Fit.com. So there's now an amazing resource there, forums, ideas of ways to get fit, etc. I know you've done some posts comparing different scales, body fat scales, which I thought was really cool because I've always wondered about the validity of those measurements and how they compare. So really cool post. There's a forum there. There's a blog there. So another place just to get resources other than looking at the hashtag and get some motivation. I love Stacey's holiday hustle, because it's all kinds of motivating, just like, oh, well, how can I move my body? Oh, today, just do 4 minutes of this, or do 4 minutes of exercise and include that. What a cool way to promote fitness and it be just innovative and inspiring and quick. And so I love all these things. So we've got all these resources for fitness and for forensics. But what do you go to as a go-to resource?
So the one I am going to plug here is the DFIR.com forum. This is, as you say, Brian Moran has set this up fairly recently. He's only announced it in the last week. And this is really intended to be a kind of one-stop shop for all things, what's going on in DFIR, basically. So he's automated the hashtag feed from Twitter. So if you miss DFIR posts in Twitter, then you can go into the DFIR forum to see what's going on, see what people are doing, and then go and find those on Twitter to follow them or support, motivate, all of those types of things. There's the forum. So we're posting things like the virtual challenge that I started on a Sunday. So a lot of us have the Peloton app. It's not just about the bike and the tread. There's also some virtual workouts you can do. There's lots of good stretching classes, strength classes. And because
meditation classes.
Yeah, meditation, yoga. There's a real things on there, and because there were more and more of us in the kind of D4Fit group who had the app, then we started doing what I've kind of dubbed D4Fit teamwork. And every Sunday at 3 p.m. UTC, we all just join the same virtual Peloton group, just a class that we do, and it changes every week. So that goes on Twitter. We post on Twitter which class we're doing for that week, and we also put that on the D4Fit forum.
And I will say, this is not sponsored by Peloton, but I will tell you that I just about 3 weeks ago, after talking to Brian Moran, who was a guest about 3 weeks ago, got inspired enough to download the actual Peloton app. I don't have a Peloton bike. I have personally no intent of spending over $2,000 for a bike that's going to take 4 months to arrive. Not my thing. But the app is $12.99 a month. And it's not just bike workouts. There are running workouts that you can listen to, outdoor walking things. I'm doing rehab from knee surgery, so I've been doing a lot of walking and a lot of upper body strength workouts that I can do from there, as well as yoga and meditation. And in US dollars, it's $12.99 a month. And I've been loving it because it's just been a great resource for both when I'm walking and when I'm doing other things. It syncs with almost any watch. It's got good integration with the Apple Watch, and you can do it on your phone. You can Chromecast them. So I would say for the value, it's kind of crazy because the bike, I think, is a little bit overpriced personally. Again, this is not a Peloton ad, but $12.99 for having home workouts when I can no longer go to a gym because of COVID or go to live classes. They have live classes as well as on demand, and there's thousands of them. So if you're looking for something, anybody else in the D4Fit movement, and you're like, I'm not getting involved in that Peloton stuff, that's like for people who want to spend way too much money on a piece of home equipment. It has nothing to do with that. The app comes down and I just ignore the bike related content, which is only like 1/5 of it. Tons of yoga, tons of stretching. The stretching's really good. Upper body, lower body. You don't have to have equipment there. You just put in there that your preferences are you don't have any home equipment, and it'll give you all body weight based exercises. Or if you do have equipment, what you have, and it'll find the right things. It's really good. Beginner to advanced on almost every topic. It's cool. Again, not a Peloton ad, but just my personal experience over 3 weeks. I've been pretty excited, and I was one of those people who was like kind of blah-blahing everybody who was talking about it because
I was
like, yeah, I'm not getting a $2,000 bike, but that's not what it's about.
Yeah, you do the same because everyone thinks Peloton and bike, they're synonymous. And even, I know in the US they have the treadmill as well, which just released in the UK. And again, about $2,500, and it looks amazing, and it's probably really good.
Sure,
but it's a lot of money. And because you just think Peloton bike, you really don't know that there's all of these other classes.
And you think expensive, right? Because they talk about this $40 and this $60 monthly thing, but that's for people who have the bike. Like, if you don't have the bike, it's a whopping $12.99 for access to thousands of classes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I did the same thing, and again, it was Brian who persuaded me to get it as well. And
Brian persuaded me. Brian totally was my persuasion factor. He can be persuasive when it comes to fitness stuff.
But as I'm glad he did, because I've been using it every week since, and it's great for the strength stuff. Even with very little equipment, you can do, as you say, the body weight stuff. You can do some classes with just light weights, some with heavier weights. And you can, pick how you do with it.
We've totally left forensics, but I can tell you my shoulders are sore because I did a 10-minute shoulders and biceps class yesterday with just a 3-pound weight, but 10 minutes with 3 pounds and never letting your arms below 90 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're like me, you look at the classes that just say lightweight or just body weight and think, oh, this will be a really easy class.
I did. And then I was like, no.
They hurt most.
They do. But what I like is the isolation because, like, I can't do stuff. Like I said, I'm in PT for my rehab after having knee surgery. And so I do all my physical therapy exercises for my lower body, but then I can just pick upper body routines from them. And I totally blew too much. It's good. It wasn't too much, but it was good.
Still good.
And I see Brian's there. He's like, I'm all about the stretching classes. Everyone should stretch more, and 100% prevents injury. And Brian, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing the D4Fit headband today that you made, that you designed. So little shout out. I knew Kathryn was going to talk about this. So let's come back to forensics. We've been a little bit off. Can you share a story from the field?
Yeah, so I mean, 10-ish years ago now, so yeah, details are a little bit sketchy, but probably one of the most fun things I have worked on was basically when I was handed a car head unit. Yeah, somebody basically just walked up to my desk with a Mercedes head unit and said, "Here you go, can you forensic this, please?" Which, having never seen a head unit before, particularly out of a car, which is, yeah, if someone handed me a car, that would have been just as entertaining. But trying to get the data off that was really interesting. And 10 years ago, this was before forensics on vehicles became common. So
pre-Ivy, pre-Burla Ivy.
Yeah, pre-Burla, pre all of the software and the techniques that we have now. And I took the hard drive out. It was an IDE drive, so that tells you a lot.
That tells you how old it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it obviously it wasn't very big. It was, I can't remember, I think it was probably about 20 or 40 gigs. It wasn't huge. And the main issue I had with that was that it was too old. It was so old that it wasn't recognized when I connected it to any of my existing hardware. And that became an interesting problem, because what do you do at that point? I basically went and asked as many people as I could to try and get old hardware. Like, does anybody have any towers lying around that have maybe been lying around for some time that might have the right interfaces and that might allow me to access this drive? And I found one eventually, just a tower that was rotting in the IT department, and brought it up to my desk, pulled it apart completely, connected this hard drive, and it had some sort of locking on it, and I can't remember exactly how I got around that, but basically connecting it to old enough hardware allowed me to access this drive. And then I think it had a basic Linux operating system on the back of it, which we could then understand. But yeah, it's just
it's a really good point, because a lot of people sometimes dismiss. I'm somebody who collects a lot of old hardware because I've done a lot of mobile forensics, IoT forensics, etc. And I have things that need a native Windows XP to run, right? And people are like, no, you can virtualize. No, you cannot always virtualize hardware-based connections. And I think that's something that's sometimes forgotten. I am definitely one of those people who saves all of my old, or a lot of old hardware, because sometimes there's differences between doing things virtualized and doing things physically when you're connecting to external hardware. So I love the reminder of that, and your approach had to include that when you were looking at how do I approach this unique device that just got dropped on my desk that's all out of place that I've never dealt with. So that was really, 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 really neat. So we've talked a bit about D4Fit, and we've talked a bit about digital forensics. Is there anything else that you do outside of digital forensics that brings you joy, or something you do in your downtime?
So at the minute, I guess there's kind of crossover between the two. So I'm not really answering the question by moving away from forensics or D4Fit, but there's kind of a merging of the two. So I mean, you briefly mentioned the kind of body fat scale experiment.
Yes.
That was basically, I have wanted an accurate body fat scale for years, like many, many years, and have absolutely no idea how accurate any of them are. I had a Fitbit scale, and it was giving me what I thought was a fairly high percentage, and it fluctuated with weight, so I knew it was related to the weight. And I thought, you know what, the only way I'm going to work out how accurate this scale is and how accurate other scales are is by working it out, is by getting data. And I booked a Dexa scan. So thanks to Brian again. Shout out to Brian for telling me that was a thing, because I had no idea.
What's a Dexa scan? Can you share?
So that's basically like an X-ray. You can think of it in terms of an X-ray, and it basically accurately monitors. It's a low level of X-ray that gives you bone density, basically.
Oh, okay.
Body. So it scans your entire body, and it gives you an idea of bone density, your body fat percentage, your water percentage, your muscle mass percentage.
Oh, wow.
It just monitors your whole body, and you get this big PDF report out the end of it that shows.
So can you explain what you do for this? Like, do you go into the equivalent of an MRI machine, or what's
I went to a clinic in London, and they strip you down into a hospital gown, basically, and put you on a bed, like as if you were lying in a doctor's surgery type of bed. And then this machine starts at your feet, and it gradually works its way up one side of your body. It goes across the top of your head, and then it works its way down the other side of your body. So it's not enclosed like a MRI machine or anything like that. It's just this. You just lie still, basically, and it just moves. The whole thing kind of moves to scan your entire body. So it's not uncomfortable in any way. You don't have to do anything other than lie still. And it probably takes a few minutes. It doesn't take a long time. It just slowly moves up and down your body.
Oh, neat.
And the amount of data you get from that is incredible. I say it gives you all of those percentages, so muscle mass, fat mass, bone mass, and that's an accurate measurement. That is exactly what my body fat percentage is, what my muscle mass is, and you can then compare that to any device you want to compare it to.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. So I weighed myself, I think it was 5 times on that morning, went for the scan, got the report back, and then basically did a comparison between all of those things, and also measured each of those body fat scales over a period of a week to just see, okay, I know one point in time, that the day I got the Dexa scan, but I figured that wasn't really enough to judge, well, consistency for one thing. So also measured the devices against each other for a period of a week to just see whether they fluctuated quite a lot, because I've had certain devices in the past that have been really accurate one day and then completely inaccurate the next day. Like I suddenly put 3% body fat or something stupid, which isn't physically possible. So yeah, so that was kind of where that came from. And I'd like to do more of that. So at the moment, I'm actually wearing both the Garmin and the Fitbit, because I got a Garmin a couple of weeks ago. I've had the Fitbit for years, and I just wanted to see how the two of those compared. So when I got the new Garmin, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to wear both of them for a while, collect some data, and see how they compare. So at some point, that's my next project, and the next thing I'll blog on the DFIR forum site is to just show how those two devices compare.
I love that. You know, Brian, by the way, made a shout out to Ladrina for her insight on comparing Dexa scans versus calipers versus water displacement. And really, I too am familiar with calipers and water displacement and the inaccuracies of just what most people give you, including doctors, which is just looking at your weight and height to determine. So I love the fact that there is this scan. I hope that military things change to it so that people don't have to play stupid games to make weight. Little bit of memories there to really archaic things. Ladrina is like mentioning yay data, and I love the fact that you are finding ways to use the processes of research that you use in digital forensics and apply them to your passion about fitness, to understand how the implements that we're using to measure our fitness are giving us feedback, and to look at the accuracy. And, you know, I'd been looking at body fat scales, and I always thought, this is such BS. I actually a lifetime ago almost. When I worked as a retail manager at Bed Bath & Beyond, I was manager for the bath department, and I had taken classes from the manufacturers and on how these scales worked. And basically, when people bought scales, I would tell them, look, they're all going to be inaccurate. They're all going to differ depending on where you're at. What you want to look for is take down the test models and see if you're getting repeatability, right? Like that's the best you can do, because they all have a level of inaccuracy. And I think that looking into that and analyzing that is really cool. So and that wasn't even body fat percentage ones. The ones that sent an electrode up and down and gave you your body fat percentage at that time were very, very novel. This is the late 90s. And I just thought it was all BS. I'm talking like 97, I think, is when I was there. So I just thought it was all BS. And so I've always kind of laughed at those scales, but I've had interest in trying to monitor it. So just thank you for your research and your work. I think it's pretty cool. And
yeah, I mean, I've kind of been similar with them because there's no real data out there to show how accurate they actually are. And that's kind of why I wanted to try and do something, go some way to answer that question. And I've had some that have fluctuated. So I bought a Tanita scale, kind of top end. It was about
Tanita is the top end of scales.
It was a few £100, and it fluctuated so much even during the same day. Like you could weigh yourself once, weigh yourself 30 minutes later, and there would be completely different readings. And to me, that was just like, what's going on? Like,
well, stop eating the lasagna between your weigh-ins. No, I'm joking.
yeah, that made no sense. And that was the one my gym was using, which is kind of why I'd gone with that, thinking, well, if the gym is using it and marketing that is the best thing to use, then I'll get that and I'll use that at home. But that really didn't pan out how I thought it would. And that kind of, again, led me into actually doing a test and checking the data. But when I did that test, there were two other scales I tried to buy and failed that I wanted to include in that. One was a Garmin, which at some point I do desperately still want to test. And I think Brian may have done some work on that or may be doing some work on that at some point. The other one was actually a medical grade scale. So I found what is classed as a medical scale that they use in doctor's surgery and places like that. And it was, again, a few £100, but it was cheaper than the Tanita one I'd bought. And I found that in a medical supply shop in London. I actually wandered down to the shop and said, can I have one of these scales, please? And they said no. So that didn't go particularly well. But I do need to do 2 other Dexa scans at some point, because when I bought the original one, I bought a package of 3. So I'll probably repeat that experiment when I go for the other 2 scans, maybe with the same scales, maybe with different scales. I haven't worked that out yet, but yeah, kind of watch the DFIR forum, because I will repeat at some point just to try and, again, get more data, because data is how we know what truth is, right?
Data, truth and evidence. Data is that's how we get truth and evidence. I love it. I love that you've applied this to this. If you saw me laugh, it is because Jay Sesportis, he said, which one undersells body fat percentage? I want to buy that one. I want to buy the one that lies to me and tells me I'm thinner. or that my body fat percentage is less. I will not use that term there. That was incorrect. But I love that. I love that. And Brian actually gave him a suggestion as to which one will lie to him in a positive way.
They do. They typically all do that. The scales that you can buy in a shop that are kind of classed as home body fat scales, from what I've found, typically give you a body fat percentage that is lower than reality. So yeah, buy any scales is probably lower than it should be.
So basically, Jay, if you just want to be sold something that makes you feel like your body fat percentage is less, don't get a Dexa scan. And instead, have you done any comparison, just out of curiosity, between a Dexa scan and caliper and water displacement yourself?
No, I haven't. I've only had a caliper test once, and that was when I was skating, because that was the British squad's way of measuring body fat. But I did ask the question when I went for my Dexa scan because I was interested in what the difference was. And he said that typically, I think he said calipers are, did he say 7% lower than a Dexa
wow.
typically?
That's a lot.
Yeah, that whether that's right or not, I don't know. But yeah, there was quite a big difference between caliper and Dexa.
In the Marine Corps, if you didn't make weight, the way they checked your body fat percentage was they did a calculation based on the measurement of your neck, your waist, and your hips for women. And it was waist plus hips minus neck, and then they put it into a calculation. And when I was in the Marine Corps, I was very, very fit, and I was very, very young. And probably like you when you were figure skating, and I was doing massive lifting and running 8 miles a day, leg pressing 400 pounds. I'm 5 foot tall. And the height and weight range, I put on a lot of muscle, and I had gotten 2 pounds over my weight range. And they told me that because, they have a certain number of days, and they said, stop lifting. You need to cut some weight, so stop lifting. At the time, I wore an American size 2. I was super skinny, smallest uniform size I had to get taken in, and they were telling me that they sell, and they were telling me that according to I was over my weight because I had gained muscle mass, and according to the measurements, I wasn't enough because I have a small neck. I had to stop working out except for doing shrugs to try to build up the base of my neck so I could pass a freaking test when I was in probably the best shape I'd have ever been in my life. So I will tell you that the way that these measurements are used, it is really, really critical that we find better ways. And we weren't allowed caliper or water displacement. It was literally this you were taped. And just, it was an archaic method. Men, I believe it was just waist and neck. I don't think they were waist plus hips minus neck, but I don't remember 100%. So please don't quote me on that. I didn't have to deal with male regulations. I don't know if those are still the regulations. I got out in 2006, but it's really interesting how inaccurate some of the methods that they use could be used. And I wish that they didn't call them all body fat, like percentages. Like, I wish that there was another name so that we knew based on the calculation method what was being used. Like, if there was a different name when you're just taking height and weight and you're saying this is, your category or what your percentage is, it shouldn't be based off of that. It should have a different name. I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm going to stick to it. Brian just mentioned that the U.S. Air Force announced yesterday, he believes it was, that they're no longer using waist measurement as part of the standard PT test. Hopefully other branches will follow suit, which is kind of neat. But yeah, they don't accurately measure what they're doing, and it affects your career. So it's really, really fascinating. I love it.
Any measurements that don't take into account muscle and body shape is just, right. Yeah, I just don't understand.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
So, coming back a little bit to digital forensics, we talked a bit about your career and how you got in and how you did all of these cool things where you were very forward and you were like, I'm going to apply for something even though I don't yet possess all the skills. I'm going to apply for a senior position even though I'm not a senior today, and I'm going to see if that's still what they want, because obviously they have an opening and they're hiring somebody. Why not me? And I love the fact that you went to Rob and you said, hey, I have this idea and this is what I want to do, and this is my presentation, and then you made it a reality. So you've really carved your own way. So I'm curious what advice you would give to somebody who's looking to get into digital forensics.
I think my main, sorry, that's my doorbell. I think the main advice I would probably give is make friends. So I believe I've kind of got where I am for the most part because you network, you get to know people in the field. It's such a small community and a very friendly community from what I've found, and just and just knowing who the right people are to kind of talk to and learn from. So this is where kind of SANS and summits and everything has kind of helped as well, getting to know people like Brian 3D for Fit, getting to know Heather and Sarah and Rob and Phil and Jason writing the 308 course. It just gives you so many people to bounce ideas off, to learn from, to connect with. And I would say for anybody starting out, do that. Reach out to people who are already in the community. Go to amazing summits like Magnet User Summit that was in May, like some of the SANS summits. There's so much available right now, particularly this year. And I know next year as well, there have already been so many summits announced that are free because of COVID and all of those types of things. Go and watch, go and see who's talking at those summits, go and connect with those people, reach out to those people and connect with them, ask them questions, see what they're doing. Do your own research. If you want to get into the field, then learn about the field. If you have spare time, go find something to research. Go and look at a specific artifact or play with body fat scales. Like, it doesn't really matter what you look into, but do something, do some research, do a project, share it with people, see who else is interested, and get talking to other people in the community about things that you are interested in, work that you're doing, and share that knowledge and those friendships and let that grow from there.
There's a couple of really great things you brought up that I'd like to key in on. One, all of these events, like the Magnet Virtual Summit, we just announced the call for papers last week. That's going to be in May, and that's going to be virtual and free. The SANS summits just announced that all of their events next year are going to be virtual and free. And of course, there's a DFIR summit. I don't think they announced the dates yet, but it's typically in the summer, July-ish. What is really great about these, and I think people are missing out, they're like, networking, how do I network online? And I think that's something people are missing. All of these have Discords or Slacks or chats where you can communicate and talk with people about things as they're going on. But even more importantly, connect with those people so you can connect with them offline. Send the people who are saying things that you're interested in a Slack message or a Discord chat, DM, and start to build those relationships. And it comes into the second thing you said. You were talking about research, play with something, do something, and share that information. One of those ways, and especially if you're junior, find a research partner. Find somebody else who's interested in it, who has a complementary skill set to you. Pitch the idea and see if they're interested on working on it with you. Like, find those people who are doing work that are complementary and see if you team for research, which is one of my favorite things about going to conferences. Actually, Brian and I just started to team on something yesterday. I'm really, really excited about it. I won't talk about it here, but that's because we've built a relationship from networking at conferences, and I regularly team with people to do research. And that's how you learn a lot, because you can learn from the other person. I definitely have teamed with people before who haven't had a giant profile. Or aren't people who are already doing talks. Take that time, ask people. People will team with you. And what a great way to get mentorship and dig into something. And then you mentioned sharing it. I actually, last week I put out a blog on ways to share. I think I have like 17 different ways you can share in there. So you can do that research. And even if you're not the kind of person who wants to be forward and doing a presentation, there are so many other ways to share what you do. And sharing that research is what's going to get you hired. Like, you're right. It can be anything. It can be anything that you're interested in specifically. It doesn't have to be something like from a case, which is where most people who are in the field are basing their research. It can be because it shows your level of depth. It shows your understanding. It's something people can look at. It demonstrates your work, even if your CV isn't filled with years of experience. Somebody has a CV full of years of experience and no public work. How the heck do you validate it? Somebody has a research project online. I can read about it. Like, I can see what they've done. It's awesome. I love that you suggest that. And I don't know, do you have any other tips for networking in this time of COVID?
I think, I mean, for me, Twitter has been, I don't necessarily want to push one specific social media platform, but I think a lot of the DFIR side of things, people are on Twitter and tend to be on Twitter. So I follow a bunch of people in the community on Twitter, particularly DFIR Fit people. I try and make sure I follow all DFIR Fit people, and people have reached out to me through DMs or through tweets, and I've got to know quite a lot of people that I haven't met in person just through, which is such a useful platform for me personally. I know people have done similar things on the Discord channels that you mentioned. There's a DFIR Discord. So yeah, that's another good way of finding who is in the community and reaching out to them that way. And Slack channels, and if you attend a course, then reach out to the instructor, reach out to people on the course if you have access to the other people on there. It's all about kind of building up at every opportunity, really, and just kind of little bits, reaching out to certain people at certain points in time and build it up over time.
Right. Like you and I had known you from some of your presentations that you've done and some of your work, and I'd seen you at summits and we had spoken casually, but I think that we got to know each other because of D4 Fit. And me, you, and Brian were working on putting together some D4 Fit challenges. And so we started DMing in a different platform, and that's how we got to know each other. And so I love the fact that, tying that back to everything else you've been saying about D4 Fit, that gives you a connection opportunity to connect with people on something that isn't necessarily about forensics, but you're building that relationship with other forensicators that you can then go to and team with and work on things. It's just another way to network with people in the community. So I love how much that hashtag, and so cool that Stacy started that, allows people to really connect and come together and motivate each other, and just leads to good work, right? So I really love the point that you brought up, that a lot of this can be done digitally. Start having those conversations in the public forums, but don't be afraid to message people. As you mentioned, we've got a lovely community. People are respectful and kind. So thank you for that encouragement of people to get out of the thread, right, and go to the DM. I don't know if that's like a thing we should be promoting, but get out of the thread and go to DM, like make those connections with the people who you're seeing. Everybody's friendly, and people can go to your handle, which is right under your name right now, which is at Forensicator. How do you spell it?
Oh, I know you're asking.
No, it's okay. It's just right below your name. Everybody can see it, except for those who are
NIKAT0R.
AT0R. Perfect. Yeah. It's hard for me to read because of the numbers. It's easy to copy and paste.
Yeah, if I thought about it, I would have made it a lot easier. The only reason I have a Twitter handle, and this is a true story, is because I was at a SANS event, DFIR Prague, which I was going to every year until.
It's a great event. Great event.
Yeah, it's hands down. The two DFIR summits. So the DFIR summit in Texas, I only went to last year. The DFIR summit in Prague, I'd been to every year since 2013. Both of them I absolutely love.
I've been to both. They're excellent. Both excellent.
Yeah, and I was at the one in Prague in, I think it was 2015. And Rob Lee was talking about Net Wars, and I was sitting there playing Net Wars, which again, hands down, absolutely love Net Wars. Absolutely love any CTF, to be fair. But he was at the front talking about Net Wars, and there was a competition to win a SANS t-shirt, and the competition was the best tweet, and I didn't have a Twitter account, so I created a Twitter account just to tweet to win a SANS t-shirt, and I got the SANS t-shirt. So
do you remember the tweet? Probably not.
I think my tweet was it's amazing what someone will do for a SANS t-shirt.
I love it. Perfect.
So I didn't think much about the handle. I just created it as a spur of the moment thing to get a t-shirt. So now it's really hard to pronounce.
No, I love it. And Kevin did drop it in the chat. So it's at 4ENZIKAT0R for anybody who's listening to this as a podcast later. I truly encourage you, not just for D4 Fit motivation and for great forensics research, but just a great personality. And that definitely comes out in your tweets, Kathryn, such as the one that you posted to SANS. It's been so lovely getting to chat with you. Oh, and people can see who else you follow, and that's a good way to find other forensicators. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I love everything you're doing. I hope you get a little bit of downtime now post 4308 as you go into your marathon to raise money for code breakers. Yeah. Really looking forward to interacting with you, Twitter, on the D4 Fit forums, and just thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Next week, we'll have the one and only Richard Davis, who you may know better as the man behind 13 Cubed, if you've checked out any of the 13 Cubed content. Full schedule for the rest of the year through the end of this month is on our website, magnetforensics.com/cash-up, and that'll bring you through the rest of December. We have Mary Ellen Cannell from just so many things, and what's exciting is she'll be on during the SANS holiday hack, which I know she's a big proponent of, as well as Kim Bradley to end the year. And then 2021, we've got some great guests lined up. Schedule will be public soon, but I feel like I should give you a sneak peek. We've got everyone from Jamie Levy to Glita, Memory Forensics online, to Chad Tilbury, to other great, fantastic people across January, February, and March. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everyone. Bye.